Hi boys and girls! So we are going to be creating another piece of artwork today that has to do with space. Last time you practiced learning about space, which is something that has depth to it, using 1-point perspective. Today we are also again going to be using that same technique we practiced last week to make our shapes look like they're either popping out at us or going back into space. Let's take a look at how we're going to create this work of art. On your paper, the very first thing you're going to do is put a dot in the center of your paper. This is, as you remember, your vanishing point. This dot is very important as all of our lines are going to be coming back to this one dot. Next, you are able to draw a few different shapes. Now, I've also placed at your table cups as tracers for sizes of circles. But if you're going to be making a square or triangle, you need to just go ahead and use your ruler. You can make these shapes any way you'd like them to be. You can even make multiple point shapes. Okay, boys and girls, I've done a variety of different shapes, and I'd like for you to maybe try doing a few shapes that go off the edge of your paper. I think that makes it look like we're really close to the top of our shapes. Next thing that you're going to do is I actually want you to first choose a colored pencil to now color in the tops of your shape. Okay, boys and girls, I have colored in all of my shapes, and notice how I've colored them all in with one color. I like that because it helps me not be confused when I am working on my lines to know which one is the top of my shape. You can choose other colors, multiple colors to choose for your shapes, but I think one color is the simplest way to go. Now, at this point, we are going to go back, and I would like for you to take the permanent zebra pen that is at your table. Remember, these are permanent, so be careful not to get them on your clothing or on the table. And you are going to trace over all of the shapes that you have done, the lines of all these shapes. So definitely take your ruler to trace back over these straight lines for the shapes that you had made with your ruler to begin with. But for the ones that we did with the cup, maybe you can do it freehand without the cup, especially if you've done an organic shape like a heart. Now, the next step that we're going to do today is using our vanishing point to create these 1-point perspective lines. Don't forget that when you are doing this, you always need to line up your ruler with the vanishing point in the center and the edges of your shapes to create those lines. If your line is going to go through your shape, like this one will, we do not draw that line. Also, boys and girls, if our lines are going to go through another shape, we need to not do them. So if I'm going to do this corner all the way down here of this large shape, I am going to stop when I get to the circle. Yes. So, boys and girls, I should probably do this circle first. I want to do my shapes that are closest to my vanishing point first, because then I'm able to see if the shapes behind it will crash into the shape in front of it. So the shapes that are closest to the vanishing point should be the first ones that you do. So these 4 shapes are all closest, so I'm going to make sure and do those ones first. Okay, boys and girls, I have done all of my lines leading into my vanishing point in the center of my paper. But now, if you can notice on my example, I have done lines along the edge of all my shapes getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer together as they get into the center. This is going to be the last thing we will do today, is add on these lines and then trace all of our lines with permanent marker. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that will actually become when we're doing it. So remember, this is like doing our cut-off lines that we've done. If I'm going to work on this shape, I'm going to make my ruler go right up against the edge that has created this triangle, and I'm going to slide my ruler down so that my ruler is at the same angle as the line of my shape, and draw a line. Again, slide it down, draw a line, slide it down, draw a line. But as I get closer and closer to my vanishing point, I am going to make these sections closer together until they eventually just become super, super close. Because the reason is, as we get further away, things start to get bunched up till it's just black at the bottom. So let's do that one more time, but this time I'm going to do it with my cylinder here. Now, of course, I can't do this with my ruler, so I'm going to go ahead and do it freehand, just like I had traced around my circle. Of course, the line of my shape is rounded, so I need to make that cutoff line the same as the line of my shape. So that one's rounded. And again, and again. And I'm going to start making these rings closer and closer and closer. Okay, so boys and girls, I'm going to go ahead and add all of these lines for all of my shapes and work on getting them outlined in permanent marker. Okay, boys and girls, the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is the fact that when we have something that is triangular like this, we need to make sure that our lines always meet up with the other side of the lines. So though the angle of this side of my triangle is different than this angle, I still need to make sure that this line meets up with the other side of it. So I'm going to be making sure I hold my ruler at the same angle as this side, but I'm working to make sure that all of these lines meet up with their partner lines on the other side of the triangle. So I had to make sure and do that on this triangle and this triangle and this triangle. For the shapes that you only see one side, that's not so much of a worry. And for the cylinder, that's not a worry either. So boys and girls, this is what we are going to work on today. Drawing your shapes, coloring them and outlining them in permanent marker. Then working to get our lines going into our vanishing point. And of course, all of the sections getting bigger to smaller as they go into the middle. Okay, boys and girls, you may head to your tables and let's get started.